up.
Okay.
The thing got like a big delay.
We're about to go live, so. Oh, leave that. Okay. Yep. All right, good evening, everyone. I am Chief Meteorologist Taylor Kanost, and we appreciate you joining us, whether that be on Facebook or YouTube, WACH.com. We're going to provide you a little bit of an update on our situation with Tropical Storm Debby, what's next for us, and just how much longer we have to deal with this headache before things start to wind down. First of all, let's recap what we've seen so far, and what we have seen is significant rainfall for a good portion of the area, especially south of I-20. These are radar estimates of rain totals across the southern Midlands, and you could see estimates of anywhere from 5 to even 9 inches in eastern Orangeburg County. So it's been significant. We have had our fair share of flooding the past couple of days. I know many of us have caught a break from the rainfall today, but there is more to come for those of you that have been dry for most of the day today. Zoomed into the Columbia Metro around Richland and Lexington counties, you can see the southern parts of those counties have had by far the highest totals, maybe even as much as 6 to 7 inches for parts of the southern part of Richland County. Once you get into the city of Columbia, the actual measured amounts have been close to 3 inches, pretty much the majority of which fell yesterday. But there is more to come. So again, while we are quiet in many spots right now, don't let your guard down. We have more rain coming our way. In fact, rain continuing to fall in the southeast Midlands. Here's a live view of I-95 near Lake Marion this evening. And we have some rain that's caused some issues there, some flash flooding around that area this afternoon and this evening. Over in Charleston and Myrtle Beach, both those locations catching a break right now from the heavy rain, but there have been periods of heavy downpours in those locations as well. Here is a look at the Midlands radar picture over the past several hours. And again, it has been the eastern Midlands that's been on the outer edge of Debby with the continuous bands of heavy rainfall that has led to more flash flooding this afternoon and this evening. Even recently, a couple of flashes of lightning. You may have seen that on the Lake Marion DOT camera there. A couple flash flood warnings in place, one for parts of Orangeburg County and a little bit of Calhoun County. This in effect until 9:15 this evening. It does include the city of Orangeburg, which is dry at this very second, but there is more rain coming your way pretty soon. And then for parts of eastern Orangeburg County and much of Clarendon County, another flash flood warning in place until 9:45 this evening. This particular storm right here is on the stronger side, but it's starting to move away from those locations. So hopefully, if you are experiencing flooding around those areas, perhaps you get a slight improvement, at least in the next hour or so, before more rain could come later on tonight. Here's the latest from Tropical Storm Debby. The latest update at 8 o'clock from the National Hurricane Center shows it is located 40 miles east-southeast of Charleston. It is drifting to the north very slowly at 3 miles per hour, and we are getting closer and closer to our next landfall, which will likely be near or just north of Charleston late this evening or overnight tonight. This has strengthened quite a bit the past 24 hours as it's moved over the warm Atlantic waters here. That's helped it re-energize a little bit with now winds up to 60 miles per hour, gusts up to 70 miles per hour. And we have seen an intensification of the spiral bands, especially on this north side here. Very intense rainfall from Wilmington, North Carolina through the PD of South Carolina, and some of that making its way into the Midlands as well. And we'll be watching that right there to move our way overnight tonight as the whole system gradually drifts our way tonight into tomorrow. The latest forecast cone shows that Debby could very well pass right over our area during the day tomorrow. Not something we see too often, but it is expected to remain tropical storm strength through at least tomorrow afternoon. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, estimate peak winds of 45 miles per hour. As it's drifting close to the eastern Midlands and the PD region. After that, it's going to push northward into North Carolina tomorrow night. And when it does that, we can finally say goodbye to the impacts from Debby. For tonight specifically, here's what I'm expecting. Decent chance at some flash flooding, especially in the eastern Midlands. And it's going to be a fairly windy night. You may have noticed that during the day today. The wind has increased a little bit. With Debby getting closer to us tonight, early tomorrow, we could see some gusts get up to 45 miles per hour. One thing you have to keep in mind is on a typical day, 45-mile-per-hour winds probably would not be enough to cause much power outages or much in the way of tree damage. But since we have very wet grounds, it doesn't take as strong of a wind as we would normally need to cause trees and power lines to fall down. So with that in mind, there is a possibility of some tree damage and some power outages across the area tonight. Once again, it's the eastern Midlands that has the best chance at seeing that. Current wind gusts at these locations aren't extreme. We do have a 26-mile-per-hour wind gust at last check at the airport in Columbia. I'm expecting these winds to pick up a little bit over the next several hours, especially for the eastern Midlands. These are forecast wind gusts that occasionally could climb over 40 miles per hour, again, topping out around 45 miles per hour for those areas. The wind will not be quite that strong farther to the west, but it will be noticeable through the night tonight and into the day on Thursday. And by the way, this will be a north wind that we are expecting through tonight and much of the day tomorrow before it turns westerly late tomorrow into tomorrow night. And by tomorrow night, we can say goodbye to those strong winds. So that's the wind aspect to this storm. How about the rain aspect? The best chance of flash flooding, as I mentioned, today through tonight is going to be in the eastern Midlands. That's where the highest risk for excessive rainfall is in place. For tomorrow, the highest risk for excessive rainfall is likely going to be in the northern and northeast Midlands, perhaps in Columbia as well. That's where a level 3 moderate risk for excessive rainfall is in place. The rest of the Midlands under that level 2 slight risk for flash flooding. So here we go. Let's walk through Future Watch for the next day or two. For tonight, the heavy rain ongoing in the eastern Midlands is going to gradually drift westward closer to the Columbia Metro. Here's midnight tonight. This is going to be really prime time for the flash flood threat for you folks in, say, Lee County, Sumter County, Clarendon County, and parts of Calhoun and Orangeburg counties. That will then drift farther westward. We start to see things perhaps let up a little bit in those locations late tonight, but things just get going for Columbia and Winnsboro over to Camden. And from that point through the morning drive tomorrow, it could be a soaker for us in those locations. Farther west in Newberry, you start to feel the impacts of the heavy bands of rainfall early in the morning on Thursday, perhaps during drive time. So it's going to be a mess on the roads for a lot of us during morning commute time. And that's one of the reasons that school districts have decided to close school tomorrow, is for that threat of heavy rainfall during the morning drive. During the noon hour, we will continue to have that threat for heavy rain, especially north of I-20. Heading into the afternoon, Debby will be located right around here. These bands will be basically spinning around the Midlands, rotating around that central location, that central low pressure. And we will continue to have some pockets of heavy rain that could last all the way into Thursday night. Notice even here on Future Watch at 1 a.m. on Thursday night, it may have some lingering heavy downpours pass through. But by the time we get to sunrise on Friday, I think we'll be done with the rain for good, at least associated with Tropical Storm Debby. So we have about another 36 hours or so before we're in the clear completely with this storm. How much more rain are we going to get? It depends on where you live. The Northeast Midlands has the best chance at 3 to 5 inches of additional rainfall. So Camden, Bishopville, Sumter, you have the best chance at more substantial rainfall that could cause some flash flooding. There's a decent chance Fairfield County is hit pretty hard with rainfall during the daytime tomorrow, so be aware flash flooding could develop in those locations. I know we had some pretty extensive flash flooding this past weekend near the Fairfield and Richland County line there. That will be an area to watch for possibly more of that to develop tomorrow. In Lexington and Columbia, anywhere from 1 to 3 inches of rain is possible. We picked up about 3 inches of rain yesterday in Columbia. If we match that, areas that flooded yesterday, you can anticipate will flood again tomorrow. So something to keep in mind. For Orangeburg, tough call for your forecast, but I'm going to go with 1 to 3 inches for you folks. It drops off to less than an inch once you get to most of Aiken County, so the threat will not be nearly as high in the southwest Midlands as it will be farther to the northeast. Most of the area remains under a flood watch until Friday morning. Again, that's when I expect the system to clear out of here for good, but that's just one aspect. The flash flood threat will be ending on Friday morning. If you caught the press conference from state officials and the governor earlier this afternoon, governor mentioned that there were 3 acts to the system. We had Act 1 on Tuesday when it made its way into parts of South Carolina. Act 2 is tonight through tomorrow with its second landfall moving in. And then Act 3 is the river flood threat. Let's talk about that for a moment. Right now, we have numerous flood warnings in place across various rivers across the area. The Wateree River, Congaree River, and the Edisto River down in Orangeburg County all have flood warnings. Currently, we are in minor flood stage in near Congaree National Park here, where you see those orange dots. Where you see yellow dots is where we are near flood stage, but not quite there yet. But for these locations, we are forecast to reach at least minor flood stage over these next several days. With river flooding, there's usually a bit of a delay compared to the flash flood threat. So here's the forecast for various rivers across the Midlands. I know it's a lot of information here. These are current river levels, and these are the forecast crest levels later this week. Each day is when the crest is supposed to occur. So for the Congaree River, the peak levels, the crest, will occur on Sunday for each of these various locations. And as you can see, in Columbia, for example, it's forecast to climb 7 feet compared to where it is right now. So you think about the Riverwalk in West Columbia, very good chance that will be flooded over the next few days. As far as these colors are concerned, yellow is the peak level it's supposed to reach, so that near flood stage, action stage for the Congaree River in Columbia. We're expecting it to peak in minor flood stage for the folks in the Congaree River near the national park. And then also for the Wateree River near Camden, it's expected to reach minor flood stage, climbing another 10 feet by the time we get to Friday. The one area that's expected to reach moderate flood stage is the Wateree River near the Lake Wateree Dam. Again, we're expecting this river to climb about 6 feet from where it is right now to where it's going to be on Sunday. So if you live near rivers, this is something to pay attention to. If you don't live near rivers, this is not as big of a deal for you. The much bigger deal is the imminent flash flood threat we have going on over these next 24 to 36 hours. All right, so that's all for me right now. Again, we're watching the threat for heavy rainfall, gusty winds that could cause some issues tonight. My best advice is if you can stay home tomorrow morning, it's probably a good idea. I think the worst of the road conditions will be taking place from overnight tonight through the first half of the day tomorrow. Should start to see some improvement later in the day on Thursday and should be good to go in most spots by the time we get to Friday. So if you can just kind of hang out, let the storm pass us by early tomorrow, I think that's your safest bet to stay safe. And as always, do not drive through any flooded roads as we've seen many of those develop these past several days across the state of South Carolina. All right, that's all from me for now. We will have the latest live updates coming up tonight on Watch Fox News at 10 o'clock. Be sure to tune in on Watch Fox and on WACH.com. You can also find our latest forecast there on WACH.com and on our social media channels, whether it be Twitter or X, Facebook, YouTube. Be sure to catch the latest information on Tropical Storm Debby as we continue to face its impacts over these next few days.